This is Pokemon Infinite Fusion, the fan game with over 221,000 different Pokemon combinations, and we're here today to see if we can beat a hardcore Nuzlocke using none of them. That's right, everybody, we're going to be playing Pokemon Infinite Fusion without fusing any Pokemon. And just like all my other Infinite Fusion videos, we're going to be playing this as a hardcore Nuzlocke, which of course means if a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead. That level cap is the next leader's ace, no active items can be used in battle, and we play the games on set mode. If this isn't your first time here, you like the sound of my voice, or Pokemon in general, you should definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. I put out Pokemon content basically every week, and the only way I'm going to be able to continue to grow is with all of your support. So anything you can do to help out would be super cool. And if you're watching an Infinite Fusion video, you probably like cool Pokemon art projects. I'm in the process of making a Pokédex based on D&D monsters and classes. And any support those videos can get can help me make even more of them. But anywho, let's jump into the video. Starting things off in Professor Oak's lab, or given our choice of our normal 3 Kanto starters. And since we're playing this as a vanilla Nuzlocke, we're going to go with Bulbasaur because overall, Bulbasaur is generally the best Kanto starter. We're going to nickname this little fella Salad and add him to the squad. Rando then challenges us to our first rival battle before we're allowed to leave the lab. Sending in a Squirtmander, we send Salad in. We go back and forth for a little bit, but ultimately we managed to come out on top. Later, Rando. Over on Route 1, we're going to grab ourselves a Rattata, who we're going to nickname Cheese. Over on 22, we're going to grab ourselves a Mankey, who we're going to nickname Porky. Over in the Secret Garden, we're going to grab our Rockruff egg, as well as a Pidgey, who we're going to nickname Skylar. And after we hatch our Rockruff, we're going to nickname him Scratch. Then over in Viridian, we're going to grab a Weedle, who we're going to nickname Pickle. Over on Route 3, we're going to grab a Sunkern. Then backtracking to Route 2, we're going to grab ourselves a Poliwag, who we're going to nickname Glenn. And now it's time for us to take on Brock and his Rock Hard boys. Brock starts off by sending in his Geogy, and we're going to send in Salad. I honestly should have thought about the fact that this thing has Gust, but instead it goes for a Rock Polish. And afraid of another Gust, we're going to pivot, sending in Glenn as he goes for a Rock Tomb instead. After he lowers our accuracy, we go for a Bubble, grabbing the KO. His second Pokemon, Dignix, comes in and it goes for a Dig, which is incredibly unfortunate. And we're going to stay in, tanking the Dig, activating our Berry, and then going for a Bubble, grabbing almost the Oko, but this thing has Sturdy. And after going for a Bind, one more Bubble takes it down, and we defeat Brock. While fighting our way across Route 3, Salad is going to evolve into an Ivysaur. We're then going to stop by the Pokemon Center and grab our Magikarp. And this is where we see Nurse Joy outside of Mount Moon tending to this wounded Geodude. Brock comes strolling in on his Dignix, showing off how big his rock snake is. But Nurse Joy's not impressed. She's seen bigger, sturdier, harder, longer. And she leaves. Inside of Mount Moon, we're going to grab a Geodude, who we're going to nickname Rocky. While fighting our way through Mount Moon, Skylar is going to evolve as well, transforming into a Pidgeotto. At the back of Mount Moon, we find Team Rocket. They're doing something evil. What could it possibly be? Yes, put on the 3 starters. Team Rocket's fusion machine then explodes, and all of them disappear, blasting off to parts unknown. Yay. We're then going to grab a Helix Fossil and be on our way. Over on Route 4, we're going to grab a Hoppip, who we're going to nickname Dandelion. And sorry, Dandelion, we're going to trade you away because I'd rather have a Squirtle. Before facing off against Rando on Nugget Bridge, we're going to add our Magikarp to our party and have him evolve into a Gyarados. Next up, we're also going to add our Squirtle to our party and have him evolve into a Wartortle. We find Rando outside of Nugget Bridge where he makes fun of us for having yet to fuse up our Pokemon, but I don't even know where you're supposed to even get these DNA splicer things anyways, and he challenges us to a battle. Leota comes in first and we send in Scratch. Going for a Howl, we're going to boost up our attack as he goes for a Peck, and on the following turn we're going to throw a rock at this thing, grabbing the KO. Next down comes Mansata. And not sure what this thing's going to do to us, we're going to swap out into Gyarados, who I forgot to nickname. We go for a Bite, managing to get the flinch off, so on the following turn, we can KO it. Next out's going to be his Squirtmillion, and once again, we're going to go for a Bite, doing about half as he bites us back. And we take him down after the next one. When his Abra comes in, you know what happens to Abras against Gyaradoses, and with that, we've defeated Rando. Over on Route 24, we're going to grab a Caterpie. Once we fight our way to the other side of Route 25, we run into Bill, where he accidentally fuses himself up with a Rhydon. We help Bill defuse the situation, and as a reward, he gives us some boat tickets. And now the time has come for us to take on Misty and her water Pokemon. She starts off by sending in Jigglydean, and we're going to send in Lady. After biting her, we get her down just below half as a disarming voice comes in, and she heals up on the following turn. After another 2 bites, we manage to get the flinch off, which means our third one will grab the KO. Her Ace Oddyu comes in, and going for a bite, we do about 50%, and after she misses on the first turn and fails to connect with a Confusion, we KO the Oddyu, defeating Misty. Over on Route 5, we're going to grab a Meowth. Then on Route 6, we're going to grab an Oddish. Over on 11, we're going to grab a Drowsy. While fighting on the SS Anne, Scratch is going to evolve into Lycanroc. Over on the SS Anne, we run into Rando, who lets us know that we can buy the splicers like literally at any Pokemart, but I didn't see it on the shelf. He must be lying. Rando sends in his Neoto, and we're going to send Scratch in. Once again, we're going to go for a Howl, raising up our attack as he goes for Focus Energy. On the following turn, an Accelerock can easily KO the Neoto. When Manecate comes in, we outspeed, going for a Brick Break, grabbing the Oko. Starbra's up next. We still outspeed, we bite it, we K it. Finally, when Mormelian comes in, we go for an Accelerock, which is super effective, and we destroy Rando. While fighting up to the level cap, we're going to add Rocky to the squad and evolve him into a Graveler. And now it's time for us to take on Lieutenant Surge and his electric Pokemon. Surge starts off with Volpe, and we're going to send Saladin. Going for a Razor Leaf, we score a pretty big hit, getting him down to the red. And once Surge heals up, we unfortunately miss, and he withdraws Volpe, sending in Pikalet? I don't know why he did that. Alright, well, Volpe's back in, going for a Spark, getting us down to about half, and picking up the Paralysis. And once Surge uses his second potion, we can go for another Razor Leaf, and another Spark is going to activate our own berry. But one more Razor Leaf grabs the KO. Next out's going to be Rybuzz, so we're going to swap and then send in Rocky. It hits us with a quick attack, and unfortunately we miss 2 magnitudes in a row. Once we connect with a magnitude 4, we do basically nothing to it, as he sets up another double team. And then going for a Bulldoze, we grab the KO, defeating Lieutenant Surge. Over on Route 9, we're going to grab a Nidoran. Over on Route 10, we're going to grab a Sandshrew. Inside a Rock Tunnel, we're going to grab a Noibat Egg. On Route 8, we grab a Snubble. And then on Route 7, we're going to grab a Pikachu. Next, we're going to head over to the condos to grab our Eevee. We're going to switch up our party a little bit, adding in Nidoran and evolving it first into a Nidorino. And then one more time into a Nidoking. Next up is going to be Porky, who evolves into a Primate. And then finally Salad, who's going to finally ascend into a Venusaur. Over in Celadon City, we catch back up with Rando, where we see him beating up a bunch of rocket grunts. And after they run away, he lets us know he's going to go to the Celadon department store to buy some more splicers for his Pokemon, and asks us if we want to come with him so he can tell us exactly where they are. But I say no, and he leaves alone. Once we make it to the back of the rocket base, we catch back up with Erika, who's already been defeated by Giovanni. And it looks like it's up to us to stop Team Rocket and drive them out of Celadon City. Giovanni starts off by sending in Arnix, and we're going to send in Nidoking, who I forgot to nickname. Going for a Water Pulse, we do some pretty massive damage, as then the Arnix sets up a stockpile. Another Water Pulse just barely manages to Giovanni, then heals up with a Max Potion, and we're going to go for a couple of Water Pulses, bringing it down to the red before he swaps out into Ryros, who we can take down in just one shot. Honkan comes in after that, and it's going to fire off a Shadow Ball, knocking us down to just 15 HP as a Flamethrower does barely anything. So we're going to swap out, sending in Lady as the Honkan goes for a Shadow Ball, lowering our special defense. After that, it goes for a payback, and we jump on it, getting it down into the red as another Shadow Ball is going to come in, KOing our Gyarados. So we're going to send in Scratch, go for a bite, and pick up the KO. This will lead back into Arnix, We're going for one more brick break, grabs the KO, and we defeat Giovanni. Needing to swap out Gyarados, we're going to add our Drowsy to the party, and then evolve him immediately into a Hypno. And now it's time for us to take on Erika and her grassy goons. She starts off with the Execuduo, and we send in Bob. Going for a Flamethrower, we get it down pretty low, and after Erika uses a Hyper Potion, we can go for another 2 Flamethrowers, grabbing the KO. Next out's going to come Tanape, and it hits us with an Ancient Power, doing effectively nothing, but it does unfortunately get the Omni Boost. So after it goes for a Seismic Toss, we can take it out with one more Flamethrower. Her final Pokemon out is Vileplume, who we take down into the red on the first shot as she activates her Berry. She attempts to use a Solar Beam, but it doesn't matter, as we can take it out on the following turn. In Pokemon Tower, we're going to grab ourselves a Haunter, who we're going to nickname Up There. Because every time my daughter wants to see a shadow, she says Shaddy Up There. And Haunter's a shadow. Over on Route 12, we're going to play our flute for the Snorlax. And then it attacks. In the Safari Zone, we grab ourselves a Scyther. While getting ourselves to the level cap, our Wartortle is going to evolve into a Blastoise. And now it's time for us to take on Koga and his poison Pokemon. Koga starts off by sending in a Venomer, and we're sending in Bob. Going for a Flamethrower, we get the Venomer down pretty low as he throws something at us and heals up. After going for another couple of Flamethrowers, we can easily KO the Venomer. Next out's going to come as Magnifig, and we can go for another Flamethrower, grabbing the Oko. Koga then sends in his Chinook, and I realize I forgot to teach somebody Will-O-Wisp, and we go for a Flamethrower, doing barely anything as it goes for a double team. In an incredibly unfortunate spot, we're going to swap out sending in that guy as it goes for an Acid Armor. And usually what I like to do here is just burn this thing and slowly watch it take itself out, but I don't have that option here. So with that guy, I'm just going to start spamming Nasty Plots, and hopefully I can just get an Oko when I eventually hit him. But now that I'm poisoned, we're on a little bit of a ticking time clock as a Side Beam brings him down into the red, and now we're at half. But luckily we connect with another hit, taking it out, leading into Beether. So we're going to swap that guy out, sending in Scratch instead as he goes for a Pin Missile, doing some honestly massive damage to us. But I throw a bunch of rocks at this bee and we KO it, defeating Koga. After saving everybody in Silph Co, we grab a Lapras. Over in Silph Co, we run into Rando, who literally offers us like a bunch of splicers, but I'm not falling for any of your tricks, Rando. You're lying. Rando sends in Anita Giot, and we send Scratch in. I'm going to start off by going for a Howl as he activates a Thrash. Then going for a Rock Slide, we can grab the Yoko and the Nita Giot. Out next comes a Tauros, who's going to lower our attack. And going for a Brick Break, we do just over 50% as he sets up a workup. On the following turn, we outspeed so we can get the Tauros down to basically nothing as a Payback does massive damage to us. But we can safely KO it on the next turn. Next up is his Wormelion. After missing a Rock Slide, we unfortunately get taken out with an Aqua Tail. But once Blastoise comes in, we knock this thing down just below half, and with another Surf, we can take it down. This is going to lead into Electados. So we're going to swap Blastoise out, sending in Salad as the Electados goes for a Discharge, doing just a bit of damage to us. Another Discharge does a bit more damage, and I'm going to use a Poison Powder to poison it. And why did they teach it Toxic? Anywho, a Thunder Punch is going to get me down to about half, and going for a Venoshock, we can pick up the KO, leading into Starbra. The Starbra is going to go for a Confuse Ray, and I'm going to set up a Leech Seed. After that, it's going to go for a Power Gem, and we're going to go for a Venoshock, bringing it down just low enough so that the Leaf Seed will take it down, and we defeat Rando. The two of us together then bust into the president's office where Giovanni's arguing with him about Master Ball production. He doesn't like how long it takes. Giovanni doesn't exactly understand the science behind a Master Ball, but he doesn't understand why it takes so long to make a circle. And once he notices us, it's going to be time for us to take him on in a double battle. Giovanni starts off by sending in a Ryros and a Primarino, and we're going to send in our Blastoise and Nita Giot. A Poison Sting on the Ryros actually manages to get the poison off, and I go for a Surf, slamming both of his Pokemon, and Nita Giot unfortunately goes down. Once he sends in his Tauros, Giovanni's going to heal up the Rairos. As a takedown does some pretty massive damage, I can finish things off with a Surf, KOing both of his Pokemon. He sends in his Genkan and Sandqueen, and we're going to do the same thing as the Tauros goes to set up a workup. A Shadow Ball does some pretty massive damage to us, and the Sandqueen goes for a dig. Unfortunately, I almost KO the Tauros. And I'm not sure who they're going to go for, so I go for a Protect on the following turn. The Genkan goes for a Shadow Ball, OHKOing the Starbro, which is unfortunate, but then Sandqueen does basically nothing to us, and I KO Genkan and almost KO Sandqueen. With only War Queen remaining, one more Surf takes down the Sandqueen, and we defeat Giovanni. For saving everybody in Silph Co, the Silph President gives us a Johto starter, and I'm going to go with Totodile. Needing to change up our team a bit, off screen we beat up a Rock Nerd and got ourselves a Tyrantrum, and we're also going to add Snorlax to our squad. And now it's time for us to take on Sabrina and her Psychic Pokemon. She starts off by sending in Hipmime, who's a super cool Larry David, and we send in Tyrantrum. We go for a Crunch, getting him way down into the red as he sets up a nasty plot. And after Sabrina heals up with a Max Potion, we go for another Crunch, as she uses her second Potion. And once we connect a few more times, we KO the Hipmime. Next out's going to come Esrion. And we're going to go for a Dragon Claw, getting him down way into the red. And on the following turn, the KO. Alabro comes out next. And we outspeed, going for an OHKO on the Crunch. When Genkazam comes in last, we're going to swap out and then send in Snorlax. And now I'm realizing I can't hit this thing, so after it goes for a Psycho Cut, we're going to go for a Yawn, trying to put it to sleep. And then swap and send in Leo. A Psycho Cut does a little bit to us, and now that Genkazam's asleep, we can go for a Surf, doing some pretty massive damage. And after just one more Surf, we secure the KO and defeat Sabrina. Back in Palatown, we stop by our house where our sister gives us the Charmander egg. And after we hatch the Charmander, we're going to evolve Figment first into a Charmeleon, and then shortly thereafter into a Charizard. And now it's time for us to take on Blaine and his Fire Boys. Blaine starts off by sending in Glue Dash, and we're sending in Runt. Going for an Earthquake, we do just over 50% as he sets up a Sunny Day, going for a Flamethrower. But on the following turn, another Earthquake KOs it. Magdon comes in next, and an Earthquake can easily OHKO the Magdon. Next up, when Chartdactyl comes in, it goes for a Fire Blast, getting us down just below half, activating our Berry, but now we're burnt. So we're going to swap out and send in Leo instead, who should be able to take a Fire Blast no problem. A Sun Boosted Fire Blast is going to activate our Berry, and we can go for a Surf, scoring a huge hit, which is going to prompt Blaine to use his first full restore. And after a Crunch brings us down below half, we can grab the KO. Finally, 9-9 comes in, so we're going to swap out, and I'm going to send in Figment, who gets roared out, and Runt comes in. I'm going to swap out again, sending Bob in this time as a Thunderfang fails to connect. A Firefang does a decent amount, and we go for an Earth Power, getting him down super low, and follow up with one more, grabbing the KO. It turns out that Giovanni is not only perfected Triple Fusion, but he's managed to capture all 3 Kanto legendary birds. And he's going to dub this Pokemon Super Bird. I probably would have called it Zamolkuna, but you can call it whatever the hell you want. Giovanni, hearing my great idea for a name, says, "No, I came up with it first, and you can't have it," and challenges us to a battle. Giovanni sends in Zamolkuna, and we're going to send in Bugbacom. And I really hope this works. Well, that didn't work. Alright, we're going to send in Runt instead. And going for a Rock Slide, we should be able to do some decent damage all around, but we miss Moltres, which is insane. Going for a Rock Slide again, we take out Articuno and nearly take out Zapdos. With our Berry activated, we're going to go for one more Rock Slide, grabbing the KO on all 3 birds, and I guess I should have just done that in the first place. And now the time has come for us to take Giovanni on for our 8th and final badge. Giovanni starts off by sending in his Rivaros, and we send in Leo. Going for a surf, we get it down super low as he fires back with a surf of his own, doing effectively nothing. Leo goes for a surf on the Ryrod, bringing it down super low as Giovanni heals up. And once we go for a second surf, he's going to heal up once again. And a third time's going to be a charm as he then swaps out Ryrod, setting in Electric Trio with Tatario, who can't even take one surf. Glystar comes in, and this thing is an absolute menace, but a surf gets him way down into the red on the first turn, and we barely hold on, activating our berry and KOing it. Up next is going to be Go Champ, and going for a surf, we can take it down in just one, leading into his Rylax. And going for a surf on it, we get it down super low as an Earthquake KOs Leo. So we're going to go ahead and send in Bob, going for an Earth Power and picking up the KO. When Ryros comes back in, one more Earth Power takes it out, and we defeat Giovanni. Alright everybody, let's take one final look at our team before we face off against the Elite Four. First up, we have Salad the Venusaur with Venoshock, Toxic, Leech Seed, and Synthesis. Figment the Charizard with Air Slash, Solar Beam, Flamethrower, and Will-O-Wisp. Bob the Nidoking with Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, Flamethrower, and Earth Power. Luca the Lapras with Brine, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, and Toxic. And finally Chonk the Snorlax with Heavy Slam, Body Slam, Crunch, and Brick Break. And first up is going to be Lorelei and her Ice Pokemon. She starts off by sending a Magmar, and we're going to send in Luca. It fires off a Flamethrower, doing a decent amount of damage to us as a Thunderbolt does effectively nothing. After Lorelei uses her first full restore, we go for a Brine, doing some good damage, and Lorelei uses her second full restore. It then sets up the Hail, and now that it's well below half, we should be able to easily take it down, but instead she swaps out, sending in Mabro as a Brine comes in. Knowing that this thing is Ice type, we're going to go for a Thunderbolt, paralyzing it as an Ice Fang does a bit of damage to us. Now that it's below half, a Brine can finish it off no problem. Magmar comes back in, going for another Flamethrower, which is going to activate our Citrus Berry, and then we can take it down. Next up is Weaveros, and it's at this point we're going to swap out, and I'm going to send Chonk in. Going for a Brick Break, we can take it way down to the red, and the unfortunate thing is now it's blocked our leftovers, but we take it down up to the following turn. Tentacaster comes in next, and it sets up some Stealth Rocks, and we're going to do the same thing here, going for a Brick Break. After it sets up some Spike, we follow up with a Heavy Slam, doing a little bit more damage to us, and I'm realizing that my item's still disabled even though we killed the other Pokemon. When our final Pokemon, Gym Growth, comes in, it goes for an Ice Punch, and we can go for a Crunch. Now that we're asleep, we're going to swap out, and I'm going to send in Figment, who's going to get the crap beaten out of him by the rocks. We can then outspeed, going for a Flamethrower, grabbing the Oko. And next up is going to be Bruno and his Fighty Fight Boys. Bruno starts off by sending in Mavire, and I'm going to send Figment in. Assuming an electric move, we're going to swap Figment out, and then send in Bob. After he sets up a Focus Energy, we can fire back with an Earth Power, grabbing the Oko. Next out is going to come Marichan. Knowing all this thing does is spam counter, we're in a good spot, but unfortunately, never mind, because Boomerang. And we're knocked down to just 49 HP, as an Ice Beam fortunately gets the freeze. But once Bruno heals up and we hit it again, I know we need to swap. Assuming another Boomerang, we're going to swap out and then send in Figment, as it uses a second full restore. Going for an Air Slash, we can quickly grab the Oko. Magnetics is in next, and going for a Flamethrower, we're going to knock him down to his Sturdy as he goes for a Magnet Rise. And he's going to withdraw Magnetics and send in Cycross, and I'm really not sure why he did that. Magnetics is going to come back in just to go down. And then Steed Champ, his Ace is going to come in, and we can go for a Flamethrower, grabbing the Oko, defeating Bruno. And next up is going to be Agatha and her Ghostly Ghouls. Mizbat comes in first, and we send Chonk in. After it goes for a Confuse Ray, I'm going to go for a Crunch, doing just over 50%, dropping his defense. After Agatha heals up, we go for another one, getting it down even lower, which is going to prompt her to use her second full restore. And after we break through, we get it down to the red again as we tank a Wing Attack and finish it off. Next out is going to come Wubgar, and I hate this thing. Risking it going for a Crunch, we get it down just below half as it tries to fire off a Mirror Coat, thank God, but it uses Destiny Bond. I probably should have saw that coming. Now we're going to send in Saladin, and she sends in Gendu. And assuming a fire move, we're going to swap out and send in Runt. Alright, we're going to swap out again, this time sending in Figment as she goes for a Shadow Ball. She can now outspeed us, going for another Shadow Ball, knocking our berry out, and we go for an Air Slash, doing just over 50%. We're then going to pivot, swapping into Luca as she tries to use a Spite. Now that it's below half, a Brine should be able to easily finish it off. Next out's going to be Umter. And I try to go for a Toxic, but it's not going to work, you silly goose. And after taking a couple of Dark Pulses, it's going to activate our Berry, and we're going to go for a Brine. Going for a Brine, we're going to get it down just below half, as a Dark Pulse is going to get us down to about a third, but now we can KO it. Up next is going to come Snorgar. So I'm going to swap Luca out, sending in Bob, as the Snorgar goes for a Curse. Knowing that this thing doesn't have Levitate, I'm going to go for an Earth Power, bringing it down just below half, and one more can grab us the KO. Defeating Agatha. And now the time has come for us to take on Lance the Dragon Master, the Master of the Skies. Dragados comes in first, and we send Luca in. He's going to set up a Rain Dance, but that's great for me as I go for an Ice Beam, grabbing the Oko. Next up's going to come Toga Knight, and we're going to try to do the same thing here, but unfortunately we get flinched on the first turn. After taking an Outrage, we can fire back with an Ice Beam, doing a lot of damage. But since it's locked into the Outrage, it can't heal, so we can take the Toga Knight down. Next out's gonna come Pteranodactyl, and this thing hits like an absolute truck. So we're gonna swap, and I'm gonna send in Runt, as he goes for a Head Smash, but then I remember that Rock doesn't resist itself. But since Rock doesn't resist itself, we're gonna drop a bunch of rocks on it, doing a lot of damage. And after scoring a crit, we get the Oko. Poridra's in now, so I'm gonna swap out and then send in Salad. We should be able to tank a Dragon Pulse, no problem. Going for a Toxic on the following turn, another Dragon Pulse is going to come in, knocking you down below half. Going for a Synthesis, we're going to basically heal all the way up as it fires off a Tri-Attack, getting the burn off, unfortunately for me. Healing up again, we're going to get ourselves to full as another Tri-Attack is going to come in, doing a bit of damage. Now going for a Venoshock, we should be able to finish off the Porydraw. His final Pokemon, Typhanair, comes in. So I'm going to swap out and then send in Bob, who should be able to tank a Fire Blast, no problem, but now I'm burnt. Typhanair then uses his opportunity to use a Dragon Dance, and I go for an Earth Power, which we get him super low. So we're going to swap and then send in Figment as he misses his next Fire Blast. We still outspeed, going for an Air Slash, grabbing the KO, defeating Lance. As we enter the Champion's Chamber, Rando asks us, "Are you sure you don't want to fuse any of your Pokemon? I brought extra splicers. You can make a whole team. We can do a whole thing. We can make this fair. But Rando, I came this far without fusing up any Pokemon, and gosh darn it, I'm not going to start now. You're going down." And now the time has finally come for us to take on Rando for the championship battle. He sends in his Nidogia, and I'm sending in Runt. He goes to set up a double team, and we throw a bunch of rocks down. I'm grabbing the near Oko. After Rando heals up, we fail to hit him on the following turn, and we miss again as he sets up a second Swords Dance. But we connect with a bigger hit, scoring the KO. Next out's going to come Riper Mortar, and we're going to outspeed, going for an Earthquake, doing about 50% as he fires off a Fire Blast, which is not going to do a whole heck of a lot to a Rock Dragon, my guy. Next up's going to be Starkazam. So I'm going to swap out and then send in Salad as he goes for a Surf. Firing off a Psychic, he's going to score massive damage on us, and we go for a Leech Seed. Swapping out again, we're then going to send Luca in as he goes for another Psychic. After healing up, we can go for a Thunderbolt, doing about 50% and getting the Paralysis. And with the Paralysis, we still don't outspeed because he just heals, but now he's back below half again. And Rando's just going to keep on running through his full restores. He's then going to withdraw Starkazam and send in Tortor, lowering our attack. After going for a Swagger on us, I'm going to slap myself in the face as he goes for his Zen Headbutt. Another Zen Headbutt's going to activate our own berry, and unfortunately this time we flinch for 2 turns in a row before we take him down. Out next is Electados, so we're going to swap out and send in Bob, assuming an electric move. He then goes for a Waterfall, doing massive damage to Bob, as we go for an Ice Beam, getting him a little bit below half. Assuming another Water move, he withdraws Electados and sends in Guard Shazam, so we swap out, sending in Luca. And then a Psychic gets us down to just 1 as we KO the Star Kazam. Electados comes back in, and honestly, I don't want to have a bad swap. He then sets up a Rain Dance, and I'm going to go for a Synthesis on Salad, healing back up. A Waterfall does barely anything as we go for a Venoshock, getting him down into the red. And another Waterfall is going to knock us down to just 20, but then we can get the KO. His final Pokemon Blastoise comes in. And I know I can't really do anything here, so we let Salad go down. We're then going to send in Runt, and he's going to set up an Iron Defense as we throw a bunch of rocks at him, doing just about half. A Hydro Pump slams us down, getting the KO. So in comes Bob, who also can't handle it. Down to our last Pokemon, we send in Figment, who gets taken out. And maybe I should have taken Rando's advice and fused up a couple of these Pokemon. But anywho, that's how I almost became the champion in a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Infinite Fusion without fusing anybody. If you liked the video and you made it this far and you're not subscribed, then what's the matter with you? Hit the button, hit the thumb, leave a comment. It really helps out. I would really appreciate it if you could help me. We just passed 20K a couple of weeks ago, and I really want to try to hit 25 or maybe even 30 by the end of the year. But anywho, I'll catch you all in the next Pokemon video. See ya.